interested in dating. I wanted to just be single. I wanted to kind of change my feathers. Being able to do that went really well, but then second year it was just kind of like, okay, it's open season on dating, you know, here we go. That's when I met him. I never really knew who I was. Like, I can't even say I stopped becoming, I literally did not know who I was because I wanted to be the perfect daughter for my dad so that he loved me. I didn't see a lot of the abuse that happened to my brother, but I would hear it. There's like echoes in my memory of it happening. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to win. Like, I'm never going to be who you want me to be in your mind. So why don't I just be someone I'm happy with?
Welcome to the Love Means Business podcast. On this show, we celebrate love as the beautiful, sometimes dangerous, and always powerful force that it is. I'm your host, Emily Green, an agency founder, business consultant, professional speaker, mom, wife, and survivor of toxic love. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, on each episode, we will explore true stories of dark love and how sometimes our personal struggles can lead to our greatest professional passions.
This episode is sponsored by the Love Means Business speaker support and referral community. This is a go-to space for thought leaders who are ready to get booked, get visible, and grow their impact. Inside, you'll find curated speaking, podcast, and media opportunities posted daily, a network of mission-driven peers from all over the globe, and monthly events designed to help you grow with strategy and support, not burnout. If you're ready to be seen, heard, and hired, join us. Visit emily-green.com and check out the Love Means Business page, or email me directly at emily@lovemeansbusiness.com for more details. Welcome to the Love Means Business podcast. I'm excited to have Joni Woods here today, all the way from Michigan.
I know, and I brought this terrible weather with me. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I love Michigan. It's a really, really beautiful state, especially the upper part is gorgeous. So Joni is a multifaceted professional renowned for her experience in relationship coaching, conflict resolution, and group psychology. With a holistic approach that integrates various disciplines, she is dedicated to empowering individuals and groups to navigate the complexities of human connections with grace and understanding. Well, I love the word grace. So, anything else you want to add to that? I took this from your website.
I think the biggest thing is I try to do a lot of hands-on. I think that being in the coaching aspect but not still trying to grow yourself can be really limiting.
Yeah.
So, I love the hands-on. I love being in there.
And you're also, at this moment, are you still writing your book, or is it done? Like, where are you at with your book?
It is done. We're waiting on the cover design, and it's gone to layout. So, it should be, this is starting the promotions process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's really exciting. That's really, really exciting. All right, so today is all about you sharing your story. You're wearing red, which is perfect because we're going to talk a lot about love. And this podcast is all about exploring the darker side of love, but also how you use that to really bring out the light in you and bring out the good in you. Because even in the worst times, we learn from it. So in order to really understand, though, where this all started, we have to know where you started and kind of where you grew up and everything. So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Canada, London, Ontario, in a really small, tiny, broken down shack of a home right in the middle of a small street, at the end of a small street. And so I grew up there. I was born in 1979, so the early 80s where the Christian movement was really booming. And it just...
Are you Gen X or elder millennial?
No, I'm Nate Bargatze put it perfect. We're right there, the golden child.
Yeah.
We're we stayed out until the middle of the night, and then we had computers in school later. So we're just kind of right there in the golden area.
Yeah. I'm a super elder millennial.
Are you?
That's what we're talking about today. But I feel like I I kind of have more tendencies sometimes for Gen X, and my husband is Gen X, so I don't know. I'm kind of like right on there.
Right on the cusp.
We're
you
right
just
on
don't
the
know.
right on the
exactly.
cusp. How did you get from Canada to here?
There's lots of stories in there, but I started by living with my dad, and then my dad and my mom got a divorce, and probably around the age of 12 or 11, my brother and I moved in with my mom and stepfather, and then they moved us closer to the Detroit border, right there by Windsor. So I spent my middle school and high school years there. And then I didn't want to do school anymore. I was like, I hate school. I hate learning. I'm a bad test taker. And so I found a program for becoming a pastor. It was called, back then in the 90s, it was Master's Commission. And everyone had Master's Commissions everywhere. But I found one in Rockford, Illinois. And I went to that one with Jeannie Mayo. And was there, as soon as I could graduate high school, I graduated when I was 17. And I went straight into that program. And I was there for 4 years. And then once I left Canada, I didn't go back.
Yeah, you just kind of... Where is Rockford? Is that like northern Illinois?
Right, yeah. It's right on the border of Wisconsin. So about 40 minutes north of Chicago.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. I actually lived and worked in the Chicago area for a little bit. And nice. I lived in Naperville.
Yeah. We go visit Naperville, go to Shelburne all the time.
Nice. So you were in this ministry program. So you were deeply religious then, growing up?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much growing up. I probably would have been born in a pew if they could have let me. Not me, but if they would have my parents, then because we faith-based through the entire grandparents, generational. Very much.
Now, is that how you met your husband, or how did that kind of
I met him. So that program is essentially a 3-year program, and then you go on staff. So it was my first year, and it was his second year. So that's where we met. But the first year, it's supposed to follow the Mormon faith where you don't really date. So I loved that because I was like, I'm not interested in dating. I wanted to just be single. I wanted to kind of change my feathers, and being able to do that went really well. But then second year, it was just kind of like, okay, it's open season on dating, I was like, oh, here we go. That's when I met him.
Mormon is your religion. That was your religion then, or no?
No, that the program was based on the Mormon traditions. So Mormons, for the first year of post high school, that's where you see the guys, like, it's mission work. They're walking around and knocking on doors. And so this program took those practices and said, well, why don't you dedicate a year to God and the church, and then go from there before you go to college.
So what religion are you? Were you Pentecostal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What made you get into that? Like, you just always had a passion for it, or?
I knew from a really young age, a little girl, that I was going to always be a pastor's wife. That was something that I just knew in my heart, and I was supposed to have 3 kids. I only have 2, but I have the animals too. So
I guess those can count too. Yeah.
My 2 babies, they're wonderful. But I was just going to be a stay-at-home mom, pastor's wife, and that was what I always knew I wanted to do.
Okay. Yeah. So you pursued that. Do you think that was influenced at all by your parents, or like what was your upbringing as far as religion and all of that?
I don't know. I know being a stay-at-home mom and taking care, that's probably a reaction to the trauma in the family. The early divorce, the abuse, all that kind of stuff. Seeing and then being so involved in the church and seeing pastors' wives, and that the way that family unit worked was probably the reason why I really leaned in towards that and wanted that in my life.
Your parents got divorced when you were really young?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really young, like probably I was 5 or 6.
Wow, yeah. You probably barely remember before that then.
Right, I barely remember. Yeah. I barely remember them together. I remember their fighting, and I remember all of the post-divorce drama, that stuff. I remember going to my mom's little apartment when she would take us for a night or whatever, but I don't remember them together.
Did they have like 50-50 custody, or how did that work?
That was the 80s, so I don't think there was anything really legal when it came to that. My father was a bully and an abuser, and my mother was in that time, and in her own words, was weak. So if what he wanted, he got. And so he wanted us, and that was leverage over her, and it worked. So we stayed with him, unfortunately.
So he had primary custody, or like complete custody, or?
I don't know the actual like final details, but I know we spent up until age 11 all our time with him.
Wow.
My mom ended up moving away to Nova Scotia when she met my stepfather. They both moved out to Nova Scotia, and they were there for like a year and a half, 2 years, and we were just there with him.
Are you comfortable talking a little bit more about your time with your father as a kid and things like, because that definitely, what I've found, plays a huge part in who we end up choosing to be with.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit more about that. It sounds like you were with him primarily, and in your words that he was an abuser. So what were some of the things that he did, and tell me a little bit more about him.
Well, with me, because it was me and my brother's younger, with me it was more mental and like mental abuse. But I was technically like the golden child, and my brother was the piece of shit. Sorry, I don't know.
No, that's fine. You can cuss on here. That's been broke by episode 2.
Okay.
He broke all barriers with that. Okay. Sorry, Devo, what you did. So yeah, that's so interesting how some, like with parents, how one kid can be like kind of almost put on a pedestal, and the other is almost like demonized.
Yep.
So how did that work on a day-to-day basis with you guys?
So he just, my father always wanted his little girl. Like that was, and so when I came first, I was everything that he ever wanted. He wanted daddy's little girl. And, so I didn't see a lot of the abuse that happened to my brother, but I would hear it. There's like echoes in my memory of it happening. And then listening to my brother tell stories about it. I didn't know that he would push him downstairs or shove his head down like in walls or, that kind of stuff. So there was a level of, guilt and shame that I felt, because I knew that, like in my subconscious, I knew that all of this stuff was happening, but I didn't want it to happen to me. So I was daddy's little girl. And there was just manipulative ways that he would do that with me. He would use me as the example to tear my brother down, which is mentally just so damaging, because I don't want to be the cause of anyone else's pain. And that's really, really difficult for me if I recognize that someone is upset by something that I did, which was so unintentional. Yeah. And that's what would happen. Like little things like, and they're in the book, but we would go to McDonald's, and for a long time my dad would just order us Happy Meals. And one time I just wanted more for whatever reason. I don't know, I wanted a Big Mac or something. And I asked him if I could, and he was just so proud of me. His little girl was standing up and asking, and he said, yeah, order whatever you want. So I ordered. And then my brother went to do it, and he told him, no, you don't get to do it. Your sister's the tough one. Your sister's the good one. This kind of like stuff. And my little brother was just so sad. And it was just like little things like that. Like he would demean him or belittle him. And it was terrible.
It's interesting gender dynamics in situations like that with parents. I know like in my situation, there was slight differences between how I was treated, my sisters, my brother, all of us were treated slightly differently. And like you said, I didn't know a lot of the stuff going on. And then like later in life, when we all talked, we were segmented kind of in a way. So like we know what happened to us, and we almost assumed like that they knew what was going on. And then it was kind of this weird, I don't know if it's intentional manipulation or not, I'm still not sure. But it was really interesting once we were older and we all started talking. And every time we talk, we learn more. And we're like, what? That's what actually happened? Do you and your brother have things like that where you talk and you're like, wow, that's not what I thought happened? And it's like a different perspective.
Unfortunately, my brother and I are not close.
Okay.
We've had a really long and stormy sibling relationship. We were close when we were kids, and then a little bit close when we moved in with my mom. But he was just so excited to be with my mom. So and to have a stepfather that didn't beat him, so like we kind of grew apart in that. And then even when we went to different high schools, he didn't want to go to that same high school with me because he didn't want to be Johnny's little brother. So he went to a completely different high school. So he started living separate life from me. And then when I left, my mom took it really hard because my mom, she was overly too close, like I was her best friend. And it's one thing for her to be my best friend, but I shouldn't be her best friend, that kind of thing. And so she took it really hard, and her and my stepfather almost got a divorce. Well, then they blamed it on me. Everything was my fault.
Yeah.
That'll be in book 2. So all of that drama just put a huge wedge between me and my brother, because he's watching the perfect family that he had always wanted fall apart, and they were blaming me. So they poisoned the well, and he just never cleaned it out. And so we rarely ever talk. When I had my son, we tried to kind of bridge that gap, but he essentially ended up looking at me. He's like, well, we're never going to talk about it unless you can take some hits. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I need to be able to just say what I need to say. And I'm like, I'm not going to be verbally abused by you. If you want to sit down and have a mature conversation, we can do that. But he has never wanted to.
Well, maybe this book and maybe that could spur some conversation, some healthy conversations.
So yeah.
I think it is really hard with siblings when it's not your fault. Like it wasn't your fault that your dad did that.
Yeah.
But it gets ingrained, this mistrust or this lack of trust gets kind of ingrained in you. At your siblings. Like we still have that, where we don't trust each other because of certain things that were done that we actually didn't do them,
right.
Yep. But I don't know how you deprogram that. I think maybe it just takes a lot of time. Yeah. I know I've been like consciously trying to make the effort to deprogram, because I think as we talk more, we realize more and more that it wasn't what we thought. Again, it wasn't like, I didn't do that. What you thought I did, I didn't actually do that. Or, what I thought they did, they didn't actually do. So it's sad though. It's sad that happens, because it's one of the fallout, I think, of that abuse. Yeah. That, you get out, you get away from the dad or the mom or whatever, but then you still have these things that create these kind of sad, I don't know. Yeah. But there's hope. I'm never going to give up hope. So in your book, and I've only read the pages you sent, so I have not read the entire book. So you're going to have to fill me in on more of that. Okay. But I did love the first part, and I don't know if you changed it or not, but you dedicated it to your kids. And that really touched me. But you said in there, let me make sure I quote this right. You said, wherever life takes you, know that someone out there has been where you are. Walk this life without reservation or fear of disappointing expectations. Why did you put that? Like, explain to me that phrase.
Yeah, that's kind of the key theme to the book, is because I've spent my entire life looking for love. I love so much that I'm like, someone's eventually gonna love me back, I hope. But because I was chasing that notion, I felt like I would only get it if I achieved expectations. Like, if I was the perfect pastor's wife, I would get that. If I was the perfect mother, if I was the perfect sister, if I was the perfect daughter. And I never really knew who I was. Like, I can't even say I stopped becoming, I literally did not know who I was, because I wanted to be the perfect dad or perfect daughter for my dad so that he loved me, and trying to hit those expectations. And I never got the love that I was looking for. And so it was finally when I got the divorce in 2016 that I was like, you know what? I'm never going to win. Like, I'm never going to be who you want me to be in your mind, so why don't I just be someone I'm happy with? And so that was the big thing. And for me, that's what I want to see my kids. Like, you do you, babe, and I'm going to love you 100% all the time. I'm not going to put an expectation on you. I'm not going to put, hopes and dreams on you, because that was all the things that were happening to me too. My mom had hopes and dreams of us and what our relationship would look like in the future. And I'm like, you know what? For my kids, I brought you into this world. I cooked you in my belly. I want you to go do you. And because you're the only person that's going to be happy with where you end up.
Yeah.
So.
You said perfect a lot. So, that must be something that, so either consciously or unconsciously, maybe are you still struggling with that? That word
all
perfect?
The time. Yes, all the time. I am a very insecure person. It's just something that I deal with. I second guess everything. I think about it all the time, going, oh, crap, did I hit that person's mark or did I completely miss it and now they're disappointed in me? So yeah, I struggle with that all the time.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the progression, but before you even said it, I was like, I'm seeing maybe a pattern. If your dad started you out in life, putting you on this pedestal and praising you and giving you love, conditional to you being perfect and performing in a way, then that, I think, does train you to almost feel like you're only worthy of it if you're perfect. And I think that's really hard to break. Yeah. And I relate to that a lot.
Okay.
I can really relate to that because I find myself doing that. I actually was at a workshop yesterday about burnout and setting boundaries and self-love. And the self-love part was so interesting because it was talking about that negative self-talk. And I was like, ooh, that's the worst for me. It's the worst. It's kind of good in a way that it pushes you, and I feel like it's made me really good at business, and I'm very detail-oriented. But the bad part is I feel like I'm just so judgmental in my head to myself because if I'm not perfect, I'm not lovable. And it's that's sad. I would never want anyone else to do that to themselves.
Right, yeah.
I'd be like, how dare you? That's terrible. But for me, no, I can do that all day long and it seems justified. Yeah. So it's interesting.
I'm not even really sure how to break that pattern. And I think about it even in recent, as I'm developing new friendships and the areas and the work and speaking and all of that, how do you break that pattern when you're meeting new people? Because when I have my friends, I know that they love me regardless, because we've built that relationship. Yeah. But it's hard to ask, because then you're asking for validation. Yeah. And it's one, either they're like, yeah, no, I'm not feeling it with you. And then you're like, damn it. Well, there.
Misread that.
That just goes all the way up. Or they, question, why are you being insecure? And so it's this double-edged sword that you're constantly walking on. It's I need that validation, but it's not because I think less or anything like that. It's because I want to do more, and knowing that I'm on the right path, things are going well, really helps me to be stronger and more secure in it. So do you have any answers?
I think it's going to be a nonstop quest for me. Yeah. I think it's one of those things I'm just going to always have to work on. And there's so many, there's self-love meditations, there's book after book after book, and I think all of those are great, but I do think if it's something that's been trained in you from a child, that's gonna take, I don't know if you're ever gonna be free of it. Yeah. Almost if you're an alcoholic, you're always gonna be an alcoholic, and you I think for me, I'm always gonna have trouble with the negative self-talk, so it's one day at a time. Yeah. Perfect. One thought, one day at a time. Okay, so let's talk about your marriage. I'm assuming in the book you get more into that. Yeah. So why don't you start at the beginning? So you tell me how you guys met again and kind of the progression.
Yeah. So he was, when we finally actually started talking, so when I was at the program for the first year, the program kind of splits into two, where there's like the home team and then there's a traveling team. Back then it was called RYI, Radical Youth Invasion. And what they would...
Wait, what was it?
RYI, Radical Youth Invasion.
RYI, okay, got it, got it.
And they would travel a lot, definitely to Alabama. They were always in Alabama, Georgia. And they would do school assembly programs. And so they would
like
go
Dare,
in.
kind of?
Yes, kind of like Dare.
Okay.
Yeah, and they would set up bricks and they'd break bricks and they talk about like, you know, making good choices, what that looks like. And so he was a part of that team. He did all the sound for that. So I barely ever saw him during my first year. But he, you know, as a second year. And both of our last names were Woods. He was Chad Woods and I was Joni Woods.
Okay.
Yeah, so I never changed my name, even when I got married. But so he knew more about me than I did about him, because I was, backstory, in high school I was a huge flirt. Like I got voted high school flirt, class flirt, and like my entire yearbook was just signed with flirt stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know, that's my reputation. And so
that's kind of a skill, though.
It's a skill, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It does me well sometimes. But so when I went to the first year and it was like a no dating rule, I was like, perfect. Like I was kind of done, because again, flirting's it's a performance. You know, you're trying to get someone's attention, and I was done with all the performing. And so it was nice to be able to just not have to talk to guys, not engage, not to put on a front, not to put on my pretty face or anything like that. So he wasn't on my radar. So then when I went back for a second year, it was kind of open season on dating, all the, you know, new first year girls or all second year girls, who's going to date who. And I remember my very first encounter with him, and I wrote it in the book, but I had just gotten into town, and I was still kind of like, yeah, you know, that guy caught my eye, whatever. And there were two guys on that list. And he was talking to me, and he was asking me, like, oh, are you excited for this year? And I was like, yeah, I'm really excited. And he was like, so are you going to start dating? And I was like, oh, you know, like, I have no poker face. None whatsoever. And so he was like, well, who are you interested in? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, try hard.
And he started by guessing, and he was like, well, what about this guy? And I was like, no. And what about this guy? And no. And what about this guy? And like, he could tell on my face. I was like, well, maybe. And the first thing he said to me, he was like, yeah, he'll never date you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't recognize that little, they call it negging, like.
That is. I was going to say, I've heard that as a strategy.
And I didn't recognize it, but it immediately, for me, in my own headspace, it immediately crushed me. I was like, wow, I'm not good enough. And
you gotta try harder.
Someone outside immediately recognized that I wasn't good enough. And it just skyrocketed my insecurity that I had tried to spend a whole year, you know, rebuilding. And that was kind of his little tactics for the first month. And then in Rockford, we would put on this haunted house that would have like thousands of people come through it. And he was very focused on making sure that he would walk me to the car to make sure I was safe. But while he was doing it, he would add in little things like, oh, well, you know, you need to be better at this, or, you know, this kind of thing. And I've got your back. So it was a lot of like negative, a lot of narcissistic stuff that was starting, and I just had no idea. I had none whatsoever. And he finally won me over, and it sounds terrible, but this is all the self-reflection that I've done, is he won me over when I got in trouble. We were in charge of doing makeup, like all the costume makeup, making people turn into demons, everything like that. And me and my cohort, we went and bought aprons so that we could put our makeup in there. And we got in trouble for it because it was excessive spending. And I took it so personally because I was trying to, again, meet all these expectations, be perfect for the staff, and to have them be so upset with me. And he just milked that. He was like, they are so mad. They're talking about maybe sending you guys home. I was just like devastated. And he was like, but I'm going to talk to them for you. I'm going to make sure you're okay. I'm really close to that
he's your hero.
Exactly. So, and by then it was everything like, you know, he just flipped the narrative. Everything was, well, I've got your back, or, you know, if you do this, then you'll be fine, you know, and he fueled the insecurities while trying to maintain my image. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it went. And that was pretty much our entire marriage, was everything from, you know, well, you're not being the good pastor's wife, or, you know, you need to be better on this trip. And because my third year, I started traveling. I was doing all the traveling, and he was staying back on staff. And I loved the space. Like, I loved not being near him all the time. Like, it just felt so nice. And he would call me up, and he'd be like, well, we were talking about you today. I was like, oh. And so it was just...
Yeah.
My entire life.
When did you, like, kind of realize that this was happening? It sounds like he was very good at breaking you down, maybe in a way you wouldn't automatically realize it. If you did, you probably wouldn't have been with him.
Right.
When did you, like, have that? Did you have an aha moment? Was there a
post-divorce?
Okay.
The reason I ended up getting a divorce was because, so I didn't recognize, I did in a sense, because he started to isolate me. I didn't have any friends there. Like, it was really hard for me to find people for my wedding, like, to stand up with us. And so he had isolated us so much, but I didn't know he was burning so many bridges on the other side. I mean, he was just in constant battle with everyone on the staff, because by the time we left there, he was on his year 4, so he was on staff, and then I was the third year. We got married and we went to Omaha, Nebraska, and started our own program, and we were fired within a year and a half, you know, and but I was never involved in any of those conversations. Like, it would just be him and the other pastors, or him and someone else. And
did he always make it out like they were the ones that
yes,
did it? I'm sure.
100%.
Yeah.
It was always them. It was always there. They don't trust me or anything like that. Like, he just had very little ability to take responsibility for anything.
And your world got smaller and smaller.
Yeah. We had no friends. And the only friends that we ended up having were the ones that he grew up with. And even then there were fallings out. Like, it was just, it was rough for a long time. But, so we couldn't get a pastoral job anywhere. So by, like, year 13 of the marriage, he was like, I need to take a break from pastoring. And I was like, yeah, you too. And we were in his hometown in Springfield, Illinois. And so he started working for UPS. He just started doing odd jobs. And, you know, he died of alcoholism. But before that, you know, like you said, once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Yeah. Well, he was a workaholic. So once he couldn't be a workaholic anymore, you know, he just moved into drinking, and that's when his drinking started, got really bad. And then he started popping pills because he hurt his back, and so it just all escalated to the point. And so I'm watching him decline and him make choices that I never thought we would make in our marriage, because he was just so adamant about being perfect and that image was everything. And I'm watching him just make choices that I was like, yeah, okay, we're not in alignment anymore. And that's where I was able to feel like I could break away from the marriage and start pursuing divorce, because I was like, we're not in alignment of who we were. We're completely different people. So unfortunately, I didn't see all of what he had done in the manipulative sense to keep me thinking that I was not perfect, but I was able to find a different avenue to think and be free.
Well, I'm sorry that he passed.
Yeah.
That I'm sure was really hard for you to deal with.
Yes, it was, in the sense that it's something that changed the kids forever.
Yeah, because your kids together, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned being isolated. Mm-hmm. And so in my TEDx talk, which is why I have this podcast, because it kind of inspired me to switch paths a little bit with what I do. Yeah. But I talk about the weaponization of love, which is really, when you break it down, I talk about the 3 signs of love being used as a weapon. It is very narcissistic tendencies you'll see, but some of the signs that I talk about are, one of them is you're not allowed to have your own opinion. Another is you're more and more isolated from people. And the third is you're afraid. There's fear. Like, they make you afraid of them.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you had the isolation piece.
Yep.
What about the other two? Was there any of that?
Yes. So definitely fear. You couldn't argue with him, and I, like, even to this day, it's still really hard for me when I get in an argument with someone or someone's like at you.
Yeah.
And he would just flip my words all the time. And so it was just fear, like, you just couldn't talk. You couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Because I didn't trust him to not take everything and flip it and then make it my fault. Like, well, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about? And, like, he's so fast and so bitey that it was just like, oh, just give me a second to breathe. So for me, if I get in a conflict now with anyone, I have to, like, stop, and then I have to write everything all down, because then I have to, because I feel like I have to protect myself, because he had made me so fearful of being able to even speak.
Yeah.
And speak.
It's like another tactic,
myself.
maybe.
Yeah, right. And it's just, some people call it active listening, like, you need to be actively listening. Well, then, and some people are just like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, give me, and it's just like, can you give me a second? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just give me a second. And then they take your words and they'll flip it, because they're hearing through their lens, however they want to hear things. And you're like, no, this is why we need to have conversations. This is why we need to discuss what you're saying. So yeah, definitely he instilled that fear really early on. Like, our fights were always massive, but they always flipped. They were always my fault. Mm-hmm. And then what was the first one again?
Not allowed to have your own opinion.
Oh, yeah. And he would, I can definitely recall a situation. I had a friend when we were in Omaha, Nebraska. Good youth group girl, awesome, really mentored her. And when we left, I would go back and visit. And it was always nice to have that reprieve, like, just away from him. Or I'd go see my parents, same thing, just nice to have a break. And every time I'd come back, if I said anything that was toted different, he'd be like, I don't like it when you go see them, because they just really they just really influence your thinking in a really bad way. And I was like, I'm never getting out of here.
Like, it's exhausting,
it's
though.
Exhausting.
And I think, like, people like that, that's how they win, is it's too exhausting to fight with them. Mm-hmm. So you're like, okay, that's fine if you want to have that. But before you know it, you just don't even have an opinion.
Yep.
And then I know for me, what was hard is, like, figuring out what I actually like and what I actually want to do and who I actually am, because I was so used to being dominated in every way that it's like the simple things, like, what do I want my hair to look like? I don't know, like, because I almost wanted someone to tell me what to do for everything, because that's what was comfortable. And so it's cool when you break out of that, but it's a process.
Yeah.
And I think that narcissists especially they like to get you in that box, because it makes it easier to control.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So in your book, walk me through some of the things that you talk about. So you mentioned that you do have some references, I guess, to your marriage. What are some other things you talk about?
So that was the big thing that I wasn't prepared for in writing of the book, was the publishers, they said, we need to understand why it was such a big deal for you to leave this marriage. Yeah. So I had to put in all the history. So I go through my childhood, from living with my dad, the lessons that I learned there, living with my mom and stepfather, the lessons that I learned there, which weren't great either. It was just another chameleon role. Like, I just had to adjust. What it was like, even being in the youth pastor program, because that, the movement back then was very evangelical. Women had their roles, this and that. I mean, I got in trouble for helping a guy too much. They were like, you can't help him. Yeah. Like, we were on a missions trip and he, like, hurt or something, and they're like, that's too kind. He's gonna have feelings for you. What the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? I can't, like, this poor person. You guys aren't helping him, so why can't I? But suddenly, again, I'm the problem. Yeah. And it was just like, wow, I'm never going to win. So then go through the terrible lessons that I learned there, which I think only helped keep helped my ex-husband keep me prisoner, you know, because he had that, well, your role as a woman in the church, your role as a woman and as a pastor's wife, as a mother, was only doubled down through the church. So then I talk about that, and then I talk about the marriage, and then what it was like to start getting the divorce, making the change. And then I go into what life was like dating. You know, I had never dated before because I was 17 when I went to the program. Him and I got married when I was 20. So I never had a dating actual experience where I went out and dressed up or, you know, dated a bunch of different people. And so that was a whole new world. It was
your best flirt. So did you get to put your
Oh my God, it was so much fun.
It out?
Yes, the flirt came back
Yay.
and she had a great time for a good 2-3 years. I had a great time. But I also, and it was the most freeing in the sense that I got to experience life, but I was also at that point trying to raise 2 kids that, because we're watching history get replayed. My daughter, she was the youngest and my son's the oldest. She was the golden child. And my ex-husband was so terrible to my son. And he was like that when we were married. And that was kind of one of the other catalysts for me getting the divorce. I was like, I need to provide a safe space for my son. Even if it's only 50-50 time, when he comes to my house, he'll know he's safe. He doesn't have to deal with it. Because right now, I can't protect him because it would only cause bigger fights. Every time my ex would do something so terrible to him, I would stand up and then he stormed out of the house, and it was just terrible. So, so watching that replayed, so as I'm living my best life as a single woman, I was like, how can I take this and use it for something good? Because all they're hearing is that I'm being bad, I'm being this horrible woman, I'm whoring around town, which I wasn't, but I was enjoying all the free food. Nothing
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Great dates. Yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. But, you know, how do I take this and put it into experiences that I can use for later teaching? So that's where the book started, was I just started writing everything down, hearing what he was saying about me and writing down what I was learning helped me go, I'm not living a bad life right now. I'm actually doing really good and I'm really excited about what's happening in my life. So then I tell those kind of lessons. But then also when I was dating, I didn't realize how miserable people were.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories they would tell me about their relationships, like I was like, wow, nobody's happy. There is so much abuse going
rare.
on, right? And you know, as I'm dating men, and I'm hearing stories. I'm like, holy shit, women are like can be a little crazy too, and by some a lot. And then I was working at a hospital. And I would hear the stories that some women would tell me that they were doing to their men. And I was like, how are you okay with that? Like, it was just so eye-opening. So I share all of that in my book as well. And then a couple of the men who really impacted the way I saw relationships and what I wanted out of them. Like one of my dearest best friends, his name's Jason, he's in there. And we talk a lot about his ex who weaponizes the kids, you know, uses the kids against him. And it's devastating. You know, you've got men who want to be in their children's lives, and these women just take advantage, and it's terrible.
It's really sad.
Terrible. And then there's a story of one guy who matched completely with my ex-husband's personality test, the Myers-Briggs. He was the exact match. And as him and I had started dating, I was like, there's a lot of familiarities here. Like, there's something going on. And but he was a healthy version of that, whereas my ex was not. So I'm listening to him and I'm having to negotiate conversations, like even the simplest things. And I was like, okay, we need to get to the bottom of it. And when he finally told me what his personality type, I was like, oh, there you go. No. Okay, we're done. I don't want to do this again.
That's like good you're self-aware enough to know that.
Yeah.
You've done the work on yourself then.
And it was, like, I think even if I came across that kind of person again, because clearly I lean towards that regardless.
We have tastes.
We
so
do.
What we are attracted to.
And so it's just learning how to have conversations, but also he was self-aware enough to be able to discuss. Like, he wouldn't, in his professional business, he was a political negotiator. So he would go in and his whole
He's
job.
probably really good at talking.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
But he is also very good at taking control.
Yeah.
And so for someone who is a lot more inside, you know, it's easy to get run over. And I'd spent so many years getting run over that I had to learn how to communicate with him in a way that I was like, I'm not going to let myself get run over.
Yeah.
And thankfully he was receptive enough to it. But it was a lot, like for the first 6 months, it was just a lot of those conversations. And I was like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this.
I think that's where, like, if your ex was a true narcissist, I think that's the difference. You could have the same personality on the Myers-Briggs or whatever, but maybe that guy wasn't a narcissist. So he could admit when he was wrong, he could take accountability. He was aware of his shortcomings. And I feel like what I've noticed with people who are true narcissists, they will never take accountability, ever. Whether they can or not, they don't. And so it's like, you're never going to get them to really be like, I'm so sorry, I did this. Yeah. It's always going to be the other person. Yeah. If you could give someone else that's in a similar situation to what you were with your ex-husband, or even with your parents, if you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say don't give up, because you'll feel better about you. You know, we can't change other people, but we can always be accountable to ourselves. You know, that's what I want to try and do, is just be accountable to myself. Did I make the right decision? And if I did, I'm gonna be okay with it.
How can people get in contact with you if they want to connect?
All of my social medias.
All the social medias.
All the social medias, my email, my website. I try to be, I mean, my Instagram is on private right now, but I try to be as available to people as possible. So DM me. Slide in my DMs.
She is Flirt. We know this. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but I am single, so maybe this is a love connection. I don't know. Anything else you want to add? Any other little love nuggets? You know, anything else you might want to add?
Yeah, I want to tell everyone they're not alone. Like, you are, and whatever choices that you make, they're all your own choices, but know that someone else is out there making them too. Yeah. You're not alone.
Yeah, I love that, because it's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast too. Because you feel isolated. Yeah. And you're not. There's so many people going through this. It is kind of sad too. Yeah. But there is power in that community. So thank you. And thank you everyone for listening and watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe and or follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify so you never miss a new episode of Love Means Business. Also, make sure to follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes content and highlights. Remember, love is a powerful force that will impact your life in many different ways. Never let the bad overshadow the good. Keep loving, learning, and leveling up. Love Means Business. Yeah.